So, Phreak just dropped a video where he talks about a lot of upcoming projects in League, and one of the projects he's gonna talk about is the upcoming Swain Rework. I'm gonna give my reaction and share my thoughts, okay?
Next champ we're talking about is Swain. This is still a bit away. If I didn't have other projects in flight, I could have this done in time for the patch after Worlds. We intentionally, even if it was ready, would not ship it on the Worlds patch. I don't expect it to be in 0.19. It would still be a little bit farther away because there's other larger priorities going on. I want to talk about some things that I've identified around Swain that I think are important to talk about. So number one is actually his role identity. So Swain is in a spot now where I don't think it is reasonable, or I should say responsible, to strictly buff Swain. Swain is in a spot where he's 52 to 53% win rate in almost every MMR, in both mid lane and bot lane.
That is true, that is true. He is very high win rate, but his pick rate is also super low. I actually think that if his pick rate was higher, his win rate would also be lower. Because right now, I feel like it's only OTPs playing him, and they should have higher win rate, right? But I get what he means though. It's scary to both champs that already have on paper a higher win rate, right? But I think he's gonna dig into this a little later, because a champ can still have high win rate and feel bad. And I know Phreak likes to talk about the things like feeling bad, so let's just keep watching.
Now Swain in mid and bot lane is relatively flat with MMR and quite high in overall win rate.
That's true,
It does not mean he feels powerful to play, but it means he's winning a lot of games, and I acknowledge Swain doesn't feel great to play, but we are not at a point where we can just give him power. I don't think that is responsible to say your champ doesn't feel good, be overpowered instead. Now he feels good, he's overpowered, we did it. Like, I think that betrays every other player in the game, and we should make the champ more fun to play, right?
That's true, Phreak, that's true. Like, the thing about Swain, I don't want him to be just overpowered. This rework shouldn't make him just like fun because you just steamroll everybody. Like, they should balance things around so he gets more fun because his kit is more fun to play. Like, for me personally, it feels bad to miss E's where I feel like it's just because of E is so unreliable. Do you know what I mean? Like any other champ with skill shot, I land that there. But on Swain, it's so frustrating at times. So definitely Swain doesn't need a buff, he just needs a change, okay? He needs to be changed around in his kit to make him feel more reliable. But I think he's gonna dig into that.
The role identity for Swain, which is for his power level, he feels very bad to play in farming roles. His most popular role by far is support. As a support, he is incredibly low elo skewed, whatever. And even with that in mind, his win rates are lower than I think would be reasonable for him otherwise. He is a popular support, he is a weak support, he is a very performant mid and bot laner, and we can't simply bribe him with more power because that betrays everyone else in the game who has to then play against Swain, who is just simply overpowered from a numerical perspective.
That's fair.
Other people may disagree and have different stances here. That is what I believe, and so that is sort of where we are right now. Now, the changes to Swain, as they are right now, are not incredibly high scope. There's no spell replacements. There's no new animations or VFX or whatever. That said, every spell in his kit is being touched.
Okay, that's nice. That's very nice. So I never expected them to change his overall spells, but they're gonna tweak all the abilities, is what he says. That's very nice, because Swain could definitely use that. Especially in my opinion, his E and passive is what needs like looked at, okay? Those two are the most unsatisfying parts of his kit.
So generally speaking, the style of adjustments are around Q usability. So in general, the supposition here is that Q is too sharp. Swain is, at least from a Q and R perspective, incredibly good into melee champions. Like,
that's so true. That's what I've been saying for so long. One of Swain's biggest problem is, especially when you play solo lane, he is such a bad blind pick actually. I've came to like realize this because not because of like matchup wise, like he has bad matchups and he has good matchups, but it's most like enemy comp, right? If enemy's comp is long range, his kit is just so much weaker than if enemy comp are 4 or 5 melee champs, then he's just auto win. And that feels really bad when there is such a big gap between if enemy team is melee or if they're range, right? So let's say you're an OTP, you only play Swain. If enemy team is range, you're just gonna have a bad time usually. But if they're melee, you're just gonna be the demon, do you know what I mean?
Swain's best support in bot lane matchups, for example, or anytime someone plays Nautilus. Like, oh, are you playing a low damage melee champion? I auto win because you can't DPS check my heal in R. My Q does like 2.5x damage. I'm just going to win, and you can't do much about this. Yes, the E sucks in melee. Understood. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
But as far as like, can Swain play against ranged champions? Doesn't feel very good. It's land your E and have nothing else to do. not great. And so this is somewhat flattening out Q, as well as messing with things like mana cost to feel like he has the agency to press his primary like offensive spell in lane, and it actually feels good to use. He's not.
Okay, you talked about mana cost actually. I wonder if are they gonna decrease Q mana cost? It sounds like that at least. But they want to I think they want to flatten the difference between close range Qs and long range Qs, right? So what I've always thought they could do is right now, for example, he has 40% AP ratio on Q if he just lands one bolt, and all other 4 bolts will have another 10% extra AP ratio, right? So if you long range, you only land one bolt, that's 40% AP ratio, right? But if they're close, you get an 80% AP ratio, plus not even just considering all the base damage extra from the bolts. So there's such a big difference. Maybe it could be like 60% on one bolt, and then all other bolts would give 5% each, so still 80%, right? But the difference isn't that large. Something like that, maybe. We'll see. I'm interested to see what they will cook up.
Not running out of mana. It does an appreciable amount of damage, even against other ranged champions, of which there are a lot in mid lane, for example.
Yeah.
And hopefully this makes him feel a lot better to play per power budget. You should feel better to play, getting a more reliable queue that works in more situations, that isn't as expensive in some contexts.
Okay.
The second one is
So he basically said that isn't it as expensive, so they're gonna probably decrease the mana cost and make it do more damage on longer range. And maybe less damage on melee. We'll see.
Consistency on his E. So the way Swain E is scripted right now on live is the missile acceleration is handled by the scripting. This actually causes a lot of issues. I went and timed like 20 casts of E, and I put some debugging in the scripting, and it was like, oh, Swain E will take like, I forget the numbers, I haven't written down somewhere else, but like, Swain E will take like 20 or 25% more or less time to explode based on cosmic rays.
Damn.
It is inconsistent, and so you'd be like, well, I learned the Swain E timing.
But now I know why I can't hit Swain E legit. That's why legit. It's the cosmic rays, actually. But actually, yeah, that's a major problem if it's so inconsistent. I mean, it already feels so inconsistent, so I believe in what he says there.
No, sorry. The game waited 4 more frames. It didn't reach the expiration like location in time, so Syndra walked away.
Yeah.
All right, now it actually went really early. Your opponent had no chance to counterplay, and like generally speaking, consistency in output is incredibly skewed toward the caster. It being very inconsistent doesn't help the caster very much because you'll fail sometimes, and the good cases don't really make it any better for you. In a lot of cases, they don't. So what was funny is, so I re-scripted this to use like native in-engine missile acceleration, so it's no longer like laggy in when the missile accelerates.
Nice.
And I was like, well, while I'm here, since everyone feels like the E really sucks to press, I'm gonna make it faster. And literally, even having it explode 1 frame sooner than the like normal like median explosion timing, everyone consistently said from every play test, from every player was like, this feels too fast. And so the timing of the E is now the mean and median of the timing on live, except that there's no longer any variance. It is always 10 or whatever frames. And this is now people like, this is the edge of acceptable. So even though it's not technically faster on average, the fact that it's consistent has like done a ton for the feel of the skill being good, which I'm also pretty sure is a lot of power, and so is a pretty big deal for Swain players. And eventually I'll publish the actual numbers, like when I can look up the tick.
I'm so excited to see all the numbers on all these things, by the way. But yeah, this sounds great. E-consistency is what I've been most dreaded about on playing Swain. It just feels very clunky ability. Sometimes, you know, you land them on the way back forward, and then on the way back, it just like misses them by what looks like nothing, and it's just like, it's a very annoying spell to use, especially in hard matchups, Syndra, Wei, Orianna, right? You just never really get a chance to land on these players if they just walk to the side. So it's very much about, right now, is if you want to land E, it's much about like predicting the enemies, or if they walk inside the wave, you can E-extend on them. But yeah, this sounds really good. I just want a consistent E, that's all I need, seriously.
The second thing is that the acceleration back to Swain is being objectively sped up.
Nice. That will actually help a bit with the melees, right? And Walk with E, guys, is not dead. Okay, I was kind of feared. Maybe Walk with E would die out if they did some, like, I don't know, some stuff, but it seems like Walk with E will still be alive. But with the E projectile maybe going back faster, it's gonna be much harder to like dodge in a way. Does that make sense? Sounds really good, Phreak. Just keep speaking, man. I'll listen up, okay?
If it's not getting blocked by minions, the total time to like reach a Yone who's like on top of you or whatever is meaningfully faster, is meaningfully shorter, such that Swain, in the melee case, yeah, the Q's a bit weaker, but his E like will be consistent hitting a ranged target. And it'll be strictly better hitting a melee one, where it's already a very, very long delay, and honestly, the melee champ still has all the agency in dodging it, but it will give Swain a lot more agency in all cases of using E, which is going to feel a lot better, which is very good, because his pick tools are getting a lot better. That will generally give him support win rate, which is where a lot of his players are right now. Next thing is talking about just overall...
Well, overall, that sounds really good. He said Q damage will be lower on melee, but I can get behind that. That is okay, as long as it's just like more consistent in the... against ranged champs. His E feels better to land against ranged champs. His E feels better to land against melee champs. Like, all this sounds really good. I'm so excited. Let's listen to what he says about E and W power share.
Tweaks to E and W's power share, and just sort of overall tweaks to like things like AP scaling. So I think most Swain players would agree that W doesn't fit the kit very well. If Swain is a battle mage, Q, E, R, and passive are all great skills.
I get what he says here actually, because W, like Swain has always had this kind of like problem that his identity and his spells are a bit weird in a way. His Q is good on melee range, but at the same time he has like a super long range W, and he has like an E that is hard to land on melee range, and like there's a lot of like conflicts in the kit. So I really wonder what they were gonna do about this thing.
Consistency and usability aside, the shape of the skills, the things they're trying to do are all pretty reasonable spells. To say, I'm a battle mage, I have repeatability, I probably want some durability here, I'm gonna like surround myself with 5 enemy champions, I'm gonna build Leandries, I'm gonna build Rylers, I'm gonna build Zonies, I'm gonna feel good about all these things, I'm gonna be tanky. Those all work. W is like some random skill off on the side.
I guess.
Which doesn't fit the battle mage kit, unfortunately. Now, there's totally a world where we're like, Swain is a tactician, actually. He's got these long-range tools, he's gonna scout you, and he's gonna get, like, a unique trinket like Fiddlesticks does. It's like, I think we're much closer to Swain the battle mage than Swain the master tactician. I realize that's what he's titled. Swain is primarily a battle mage. I think that is why players are playing him. And so what this generally means is playing up that E is Swain's secondary skill, and W is kind of flavor, sort of in the way that, like, Ashe has Hawkshot. And Hawkshot is a totally viable 1-point wonder and feels good for Ashe to use. Hawkshot is not where most of her power budget is, and that's fine. She just has Hawkshot, and Hawkshot feels like good utility. Broad strokes, that is what I feel works for W. And we can say Q and E are actually your primary skills. They are good. They're going to feel good to use. They are your primary throughput. W should feel fine as a 1-point wonder. We can probably get tuning that says if you really want to choose between W and E, you can. Feel free. Go have fun, buddy. But playing up Swain is a QE champion because E, let's be clear, is way more usable and way more consistent than W.
Okay, so I get what he's saying here, because currently, right now on Swain, you max Q, max W, because you don't get anything from maxing E, right? You get so much more value on maxing W, longer range, more slow, more reveal, etc., right? So they want to change his W to like a 1-point wonder, meaning you only have 1 point in it, like basically saying you're max at last, right? So they want you to max Q and then max E on solo lane. So they're probably gonna increase what value you get from maxing E, is my guess. Or, I mean, it's pretty much what he's saying. So they're probably gonna change W to some kind of ability that is good on just 1 point. Might get shorter range, I could maybe imagine. Because he's also said something about tweaks on AP ratio. Maybe they would give it like shorter range with like just more damage, or like, who knows actually. Let's listen to what he has to say.
And so finding the numbers that make this make sense here so that Swain can safely press QE and rank up QE and feel good about them. And then again, tweaks to ability power ratios and whatnot. This is simply they're still in flight here. Ultimately, we have to do the final tuning pass when we're done with everything else. But broadly, the goals here are playing up AP ratios overall. One thing I've discovered is there's a lot of champions whose AP ratios are quite low, and it drives them to rely purely on systems for damage output.
Yeah, so I get what he's saying here. Like, Swain has kind of low AP ratios, so that means that systems like Leandry, all these like item effects are really good on those kind of champions. So you can just like, they kind of do the damage. Like if you buy Leandry on Swain, it's kind of like Leandry is carrying your damage in a way. But if they give them higher AP ratios, you can buy more AP and and not have to rely on like Leandry damage to deal meaningful damage, right?
Now, I don't expect Swain to ever not go Legendary unless we remake the ultimate. It is a long duration damage everyone around me for, refreshing spell effects. Like Leandry's Rylays will not leave Swain's item repository unless he has a new ulti. But the option of considering a squishy or higher damage build like Blackfire Torch only really makes sense if he has enough AP ratios to say that the bonus AP on Blackfire Torch beats the things that Landers are doing. Again, I don't expect him to, but in order to open up the option, we would need to buff some AP ratios. A lot of things we could do here, a lot of tweaks here.
But probably my idea is they're probably gonna remain Q pretty much the same, but lower damage melee and more damage like up front on ranged, ranged characters. They will probably buff W and E ratio on AP maybe, since they are very, very low, guys, if you didn't know. W is 55% AP ratio, and E is 35 each way. They're gonna make them more consistent now, probably. At least the E. And if the higher AP ratios, then there's definitely more incentive to buy more AP items, basically.
And then finally, R adjustments. This one I am not 100% sure what we're going to do. But one thing I have tried that has broadly tested well is giving him more demon flares. So right now...
Yeah, they've spoken about this. More demon flares. It looks pretty interesting, not gonna lie. I wonder how they can pull this off without making it like too much power into that, right? Because I don't want all the power budget to go, like personally, I don't want all the power budget to go into his demon flares. I want it to be like very nice spread out in his kit. So I wonder what they're gonna do with this.
There's two versions I could see. There might be another one by the time we actually ship this. So one was you demon flare on transform, and you get it back every couple of seconds or whatever. That tested okay. The idea of getting more demon flares actually tested pretty well. The one I'm going to try next is just when you transform, you demon flare, and then the rest of your ulti is just you have the dot, congratulations. And the reason why I'm actually...
Okay, two versions they have tried. Okay, so they're not really certain on it yet, but it seems like they want to have a demon flare on transformation.
I believe this is a solid direction, is it gives you punchiness on pressing R. It also gives you a way to hit confirm this to your kit, because you can R the Demon Flare heavy slow. Like, we can tune the slow duration and potency to say, I Demon Flare E and it's guaranteed because I burned my damn ultimate for it. It's mine, let's go. And I Demon Flare into E, yoink you back, land W, land Q, right? Just like...
See, I actually really like that you get it if you get a Demon Flare on transformation, because then it is as it says, right? Because right now, currently, I use Demon Flare a lot to... slow the enemy so I can guarantee land E, but if you get Demon Flare instantly on ult, you can just transform and hit E instantly, right? That would feel a lot better, actually. So very interested to what they're gonna do here.
I can full combo you, you're into melee range, I deal double damage with Q, I did all these things, you're, let's go. And E might have like a cooldown incentive, and so I can like cast it again later on, and you're trapped in here with me kind of thing. But the immediacy and potency of I press R and something happens has generally been a really, really good thing. So this is one thing that I'm pretty keen on. I'm unsure if we'll take away second Demon Flare or not. Depends on power budgets and what actually feels the best for the champion. But it's on the table. Still a fair bit away. I haven't had time in about a month for any meaningful iterations. So when I get time, I'll pick this back up. I think we're pretty close. The types of things here I think are all pretty shippable. Again, got to figure out what we're doing with R. Got to figure out what we're doing with numbers. But these have all been, I think, pretty positive for making the champion feel better to play.
Amazing. Okay, so they're still not 100% sure about the R, about the AP ratio tweaks. But it seems like they have a good idea to maybe fix current Swain. But it seems like it's still a bit away. So we could probably expect like a few more patches, right? But I'm just happy they're gonna take their time here, and hopefully Swain can become really, really nice after these changes, and maybe his pick rate can increase, maybe more people will pick him up, right? Anyways, that seems like that was everything Phreak wanted to talk about on Swain. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Phreak. I don't get why he gets all the hate, right? I think he's very nice for the community. He's always been very passionate. He's been there almost since day one in season 1, right? Commentating. He makes like weekly posts on every patch and talks about upcoming stuff and try to explain his thoughts. I have a feeling that the Swain Rework is in good hands. It's Phreak and Ray mostly working on the Swain scope here, as far as I know. So overall thoughts, I'm still very happy. Seems like it's a little time away, but they are fixing a lot of the things that I have problems with, right? His main trading tool is just much better in melee range. It really is a problem in mid lane, for example. His E is so inconsistent. Very curious about the R adjustments, also tweaks to AP ratio, what they're gonna do with W. I love W. I'm a big fan of the long range W snipes, stopping bases, helping out side lanes, pushing waves, etc. Right? But I could accept if they want to make him like more shorter range battle mage with lower range Ws, etc. Right? So this was basically the newest thing we know about Swain here. I'm glad Phreaks talked about it. It seems like Swain is on the radar. And I personally believe this rework is gonna be really, really nice for Swain, okay? I don't think it will be bad at all, guys. So I don't think there's any reason to worry. Thanks for watching my reaction. And I'll make sure to keep you guys posted whenever I spot something new about Swain, okay? So have a good one until then. Stay safe, guys.